How you doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show, presented by our amazing sponsors, Moo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets, BetUS that has you covered for all of your sports betting needs, and SeatGeek. Utilize our promo code Wardy10 today. Link down below in the description. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase. And Wardy's amped up to break down what was an amazing victory for the Mets. Their biggest victory, you could argue, this season, or at least certainly close to. When I think of the best wins the Mets have had so far this year, it's hard to top games where the Mets have themselves a rally, especially a big comeback, let alone tying the biggest comeback the Mets have had this season at 4 runs down against the Halos the way that they were initially in this ball game, to come out in a day where Kodai Senga doesn't even give you anything beyond 3 innings of 4 earned run baseball, yet you get Juan Soto finally stepping up with runners in scoring position. Brett Baty, more like Brett Bonds Baty, with the bomb. Adam Driver loves it. And then you add in all the little pieces there. Ronnie Mauricio's infield dribbler, the bad fundies by the Halos, because of course they don't have good defense. Francisco Alvarez tearing the cover off the baseball, and his first game back, this shy of an opposite field bomb. We would have loved to see it. So much to break down, so much to be happy about, and what was a big victory where Kevin Herget gives you 2 shutty. The diehard David Wright fan growing up back in the bullpen making a difference. Love to see it. Look at this bullpen and what they were able to do. Look at this offense stepping up with runners in scoring position. Finally, everybody, we have ourselves a good Metropolitan victory to break down. Hit that like and subscribe button as you guys first chime in live on a replay, as we're going to break down everything that transpired innings 1 through 9 throughout the course of this ball game, as we always do, as we cover the Mets in season, off season, postseason, you name it. We're covering all things New York Metropolitans here for our latest post-game show. Spam those W's is what your guy Wardy wants to see in the live chat right here, right now, and I want to see the hype. How are we feeling, everybody? Finally, Juan Soto hit a liquid runners in scoring position, but he wasn't even batting 200, mind you, entering this game with runners in scoring position. A sub 400 slug in that position, but it does not matter. Juan Soto steps up. Brett the Hitman rakes against the lefty. It's almost like you should keep him in there every day at the hot corner. I don't know. You tell me, Mendy. What should you do? A lot to get into with this one, everybody. Spam those W's. That is what your guy Wardy wants to say. We're going to break down what was a little bit of a disaster class for Kodai Senga, but how this bullpen made up for it and then some. I'm sorry. Oh my God, what a fantastic game for this Mets bullpen. A lot of positives to break down there, as well as how this offense ended. As you guys see beside me, Ronnie Mauricio came in later in this ball game, but a man that clutched up big time for the second consecutive day there, getting the start was Luis Angel Acuna. First pitch swinging to get the rally started there that we saw later on this ball game. A lot of positives to take away from the Mets lineup. What I liked today, what I didn't like about today, including the key guys and Alonso there, what we also saw to a degree, and some others. A lot to get into though, folks. Mario with the $5 thank you so much, my man. Mets win on WWE night. The Angels thought we were down for the 10 count, but the Mets were the last team standing. 2-0 with Tiffany Stratton first pitches. That's a great point for any of my WWE fight fans out there. Stratton absolutely botched her first throw. I think it was right before the All-Star break that we saw, doing her best 50 Cent impression. If you know, you know, when he's throwing to my guy Anthony Recker. Shout out Reck as always. But then she tried to make up for it again today, and she even beat up the Bronx Giraffe to make sure that the Bronx did not win that race at Citi Field. If you guys know the story there, the Mets do a race of a different type of mascot that's supposed to represent a borough in the area, and the Bronx never win, obviously, because they never want the Yankees to win anything. And I respect the pettiness by the Mets. They're the same way that I love the fact that you guys are spamming those W's in the chat right now, watching live on a replay, as we're going to break down all the key takeaways from this Metropolitan victory. But folks, let's waste no more time and let's let it rip as we always do. And I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this puppy off for a second. Where is the remote? Here's the remote, everybody. I love Jerry Blevins and aren't we? So without further ado, everybody, let's let it rip as we always do. No matter how much you love it or hate it, it is time that we let it rip with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Baby, let's effing go. Let's do this.
Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it
Shout out to my guys, as always, Greg and Jordan with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Love it or hate it, like I said, it's here to say we love to do that little Cordy dance with the best jingle in the land after every big victory throughout the course of the 162. And as we hop back into this one, everybody, like I said, we got a lot of breakdowns, so I don't want to waste any time. I just want to see from you guys chiming in live into our replay viewers in the comments down below, who are your biggest takeaways? Who is your number one star of the game, everybody? Is it the one and only Juan Soto? Is it Brett Bonds Baty? Is it what we saw in Kevin Herget giving us two shutty when you needed that from your bullpen? Was it Francisco Alvarez going Oppo Taco there for a nice, not bomb, but a double off the wall? Whatever your thoughts are on your key takeaways, your favorite player of the game, I want to see it spam in the chat and the comments down below as always, everybody, as we got to do a quick shout out here to our great friends at BetUS that again have you covered for all of your sports betting needs. Make sure you guys bet responsibly and gamble responsibly with the casino. But if you do, head over to betus.com.pa today and utilize our promo code YouTube150. That way you two get a 150% bonus on your first deposit. And if you guys tailed what we had pregame in our previous content earlier today, breaking down Jeff Passan's latest links of players connected to the Mets as trade targets, as well as our video that dropped in the AM for latest Big Mets update segment, then you know that heading into this ball game for Kodai Senga to have 5+ Ks and for the Mets to win was at -107. Unfortunately, Senga was not able to give the Mets any length whatsoever. However, if you did hammer the Mets money line itself, you did come out winning big time. So I hope everyone that bet responsibly won big time tonight, that did their bias bets for the Mets here. Again, when it comes to sports betting as well as the casino, check out BetUS, but do it responsibly. All right, guys, let's break it down. Let's get into this one. I'm amped up. If you guys want to check out Wardy Day tickets, again, they're available in the chat as well as in the comments down below. To our replay viewers, we officially have less than 10 tickets left, if I'm not mistaken, everybody. So if you guys want your chance to hang out with your guy Wardy, August 1st, Mets versus Giants, where we're going to be giving you pregame on-field access, an $18 drink voucher. It's fireworks night. It's the day after the MLB trade deadline. You're going to hang out with me in a awesome left field lounge where we're going to be doing a live show while in attendance. Buckle up. Cannot wait to see you guys there. How we doing, everybody? We got D-Mac in the chat. Great member. Truman, how are you? Dave, how are you? Andrew going up the list here. Truman going up here. Kane, Eric Douglas, as always. We're going easy. We're going Joel. We're going Robert Neymar, my man. We got Kane, how we doing? We got Chad O'Neal, great member. JTB, Conan, Chris Norton, John Dan's in the chat. Killa, Bob Peel, how we doing? Eric Douglas, how we doing? Great member. Steve Lawn, great member. How are you? Going up the list here. Scott Miller, Kevin Flores, Dominic, my man, great member as always. There it is, the offbeat Wardy Bop. You love to see it as always. Daniel Caps, great member in the chat as always too. We got PB9, great member. Thank you so much for chiming in, PB. I know I got to get back to you. We got SR, great member. We got all you guys. Michael Valenti, Dave Coffer. I know my man Dave Kaplitz is around somewhere. We got Andres. We got Enrique Pardo. How are you, my friend? We got all you guys chiming in live on a replay. Geraldo, G Money Stacks, Vander going up here even more. I'm feeling good tonight, Andrew. This is the beauty about the Mets bouncing back. Listen, we saw the Mets salvage the series yesterday the way that they did, and that was an important win. And was that going to be the start of something good for this Mets team, or was it going to be the start of them then going right back down against the Angels and dropping game one? And listen, if you asked a lot of Mets fans throughout the first 5 innings of this ball game, they probably would have all wholeheartedly agreed that the Mets were not going to be winning this one. Kodai Senga can't even give you beyond 3 innings. That's like an anomaly that almost never happens. And for Kodai to give you no length, and for Kevin Herget to somehow, some way go too shutty, that set the tone for this team to keep them in the ball game. And then you add in the offense. Tyler Anderson was cruising early, but the Mets were able to pounce. And not only did the Mets pounce brilliantly today, but the Mets pounced especially against a reliever that, hilariously enough, they were linked to from Jeff Passan today, because he's usually a very good reliever this season, just not against the Mets today, and that is Mr. Reed Detmers, the southpaw. Buddy was batting practice. The Mets took advantage of the bad funnies yet again by an Angels team that doesn't know fundamental baseball if it smacked them across the face. A lot of things to expose if you're the Mets in this matchup, and while they didn't have everything cooking offensively to begin this ball game, as Tyler Anderson was initially in quite the groove, it would not hold on too long before the Mets would ultimately rally all the way back, tie that ball game, and win it in the end. I feel dirty after watching that game. That wasn't Major League Baseball. It was nasty. It was sloppy. It was all over the place, Pat. I know you're not happy that you got the win, but you need the win. The Mets needed this victory. The Mets are now in a little bit of a 2-game heater. We'll take that. Miguel in the chat, how we doing, baby? We got Dave Coffer in the chat as well. We got Sean Daniels, great member, SMD, how are you? We got Michael Valenti in here. We got Miguel, if I didn't say him already. We got Michael in here as well. Oh, we got all you guys, Michael, Brian, Chaman, and you guys are absolutely amazing. But folks, let's get into the key standouts from this one, as well as not only are we going to break down the key takeaways from this ball game, inning 1 through 9, we're also going to wrap up the show by sharing our opinions and thoughts on some of what David Stearns had to say with the media today, everybody. So make sure that you're chiming in for the second half of our segment for that, as we're going to further expand not only on Stearns' comments, but what the Mets' current plans are for the deadline tomorrow, with a very special guest that'll drop earlier on the platform. Be on the lookout. It should drop tomorrow for everybody right around noon, if not sooner. Between noon and 1 p.m. Eastern latest is when the video will be dropping. Be on the lookout. Very special guest, and we're going to be having a special guest for you guys tomorrow, as well as a special guest for you guys on Thursday at minimum. So we have some really awesome interviews coming on the platform soon. Be on the lookout for it, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe on your way. And Silly's feeling good. Silly Mazzilli 96, baby. Calling all Mets fans. You know the drill with the jingle, baby. You love to see it. Edwin Sugar Diaz, we didn't even get a chance to really highlight him yet because I was just so filled with euphoria as soon as that strike 3 happened. Why, everybody? Because not only did Edwin Diaz have another dominant outing where he was getting the save for the Mets, but he dominated in a way by striking out the side. Everybody and your mother getting their absolute teeth kicked in by Edwin Diaz and this Mets bullpen today. So much positivity there, so much to get into. So let's waste no more time and let's go ahead and break down this ball game, everybody, shall we? Mind you, the Mets in this one, for the first, I would say, 5 to 6 innings, the Angels had an expected batting average of 350 to 370 range. It was insane. The Mets were at 160. As the ball game concluded, the Mets ended the ball game with an expected batting average of 259 to just 272 there for the Halos. And as we get into how this ball game went here, towing the rubber for the Amazons was the Mr. Ghost Fork himself, and Kodai Senga facing off here against the veteran southbound Tyler Anderson. And if you guys know a thing or two about Tyler Anderson, going back to his years with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he usually did well against the Mets. He was just always a pain, always a thorn in the side, even though he wouldn't go necessarily deep every time. He'd go 5.2 shutty, like, again, it's on the back of his hand, like another day in the block without a problem. It was frustrating. So Tyler Anderson, how he was in the first 4 or 5 innings of this ball game, buddy, was nails. But as we then got into that 4th inning, especially, the Mets got a taste of some runs, and then in the 7th is where they were really able to pounce in this one. But how the ball game began, as we all saw together, everybody, Zach Neto led things off with a walk. And after we saw there on the challenge, we would see it, in fact, be overturned. We would see Nolan Shanuel grounds into that force out there, and we would see Mr. Neto out at second. So an early challenge there, and it was, in fact, reversed. So, all right, guys, we have Mike Trout up. Not a problem. Kodai Senga strikes him out the only way that Senga knows how, and he's going to strike him out with the Ghost Fork down. Perfectly placed by Mr. Senga, one of the best breaking pitches in all Major League Baseball. Mr. Taylor Ward, and I would just like to say, Taylor Ward, I'm Tyler Ward, he's Taylor Ward. We're not related. If I got to be honest, I really despise my fellow T Ward here because he's torching the Mets. Taylor Ward, I know, has been having a very good season for the Angels, but Buddy's a man possessed on the road. He is an extra base hits god, and he certainly exemplified that big time against this Mets team in this ballgame. Thankfully, the Mets still won in the end, but Taylor Ward was a problem. He was a pain in the derriere, if you will. But first of all, he grounded out to begin the ball game, so Senga works out that, and that does it for the first. In the bottom of the first, the Mets go down in order. Why? Nimmo's called out and strikes. Lindor with a quick pop-up, and then Soto flies out there to center, and that does it for the inning. In the second, we would see Joe Adele call down strikes. Some nice dottage early by Mr. Kodai Senga. Then Yo Moncada, White Sox legend, if you know, flies out. And Logan O'Hoppe, who grew up a diehard Yankees fan, so he's already a schmuck, ripped his 18th home run this season there. First run of the ball game there against Kodai Senga. Senga served up a cutter meatball, middle down the pipe. I'm sorry, but I mean, your grandma could serve up those meatballs, and we're going to get the same results naturally, everybody. That is a deep drive to left, 401 feet there that we would see to center left, rather, 107 off the bat, and that gave the early lead to the Angels here, initially 1-0. And I know, when Kodai Senga gives up runs early, is by all means not the end of the world. Hit it with the jingle, Wardy. Renee, I will do it again before the end of the live show. You just got to remind me, because we already did the jingle once here in the show before we really got this thing going. But expand back in this one, everybody. Logan O'Hoppe gives the early lead to the Angels, and I wasn't, shaking my boots yet with Senga, mainly because the commonality with Kodai Senga in all of his starts, regardless on how good or how bad, up until pretty much today, how he performs, is that if Senga gets an early chance, he usually works out of it. Meaning that if he, say, gives up a home run, it's probably just a solo shot, and then he will go on to groove from there. If Senga, say, gives up a run or two because he had bases loaded early in the ball game, he usually hankers down, and really gets himself in a groove. That was not the case today, unfortunately. Kodai Senga was never able to find his comfortability he was looking for in this start. We just have to hope that Kodai's healthy. That's the only thing that matters, because we know he's going to be back better than ever next time out there, hopefully. In the bottom of the second, the Mets are down 1-0. And who leads things off with a single there with one away? It is Mr. Jeff Big Hits, Jeff McNeil. Another great game for Jeff. I got a lot of positives to say about McNeil this year. I'm not used to saying that. It's been a while. It's going back 3 years pretty much since the last time I spoke positively on a consistent front in regards to Jeff McNeil. But that just shows you how impressive of a season he's been having, splitting time not only at second base, but honestly being more than fine in center field. And while David Stearns would obviously like to maybe deviate away from Jeff in center for the sake of his health and also his durability, that's why the Mets are in the market for a center fielder, in part because Tyrone Taylor can't hit a lift to save his life. A beach ball, forget it. At least we know that McNeil is continuing to step up here post All-Star break like nothing changed from the first half when he came back from injury. Vientos then gets on with a single, so you got 2 on, less than 2 out. Brett the Hitman grounds out softly, but that moves the runners over. So then you have runners in scoring position for Francisco Alvarez, and you're hearing the 40,000 strong at Citi Field tonight, everybody. Mind you, it's a Monday night, and you can't even hear the person talking next to you because they're roaring loud, and they're stepping up, they're standing up, they're giving the ovation for El Troll's return back in this Mets lineup. That is what I love to see by these fans. Shout out to every single Mets fan that attended tonight's game and went out of their way to really try to uplift Alvarez, who, of course, had 11 home runs in just 16 games since being sent down the minor leagues. That warranted the quick call back up, and Alvarez did unfortunately ground out softly there to second base, but he would make up for it later on in this ball game. We would see Renifo come in, and he would have himself a leadoff single in the third. Then Nito grounds out. Then it's Nolan Shanuel strikes out. Big strikeout there by Kodai. And then with one walk to Mike Trout, we would see a double, a torching double, an absolute, oh my God, double there, given up by Kodai Senga, because just when you thought, okay, the Mets are nipping out the heels, they couldn't get enough going that past inning, and what happens, the Angels make the Mets pay for that lack of offensive upside right away. Taylor Ward rips his 25th double of the season, and that makes it 3-0 just like that in favor of the Halos. And I gotta be honest, I'm all about being holy, but I want nothing to do with these damn Angels. Joe Adell then rips himself a single, and that makes it 4-0 Angels just like that, everybody. Again, is the ball game over? No. But now you're asking yourself as a Mets fan, is this team going to roll over and die, or are they going to step up and start something special? Can the Mets go back to being the Mets that we saw after their 11-game below 500 stretch in 2024? Can the Mets go back to being this team again that'll rally back within a half inning or so of facing these early deficits? And the most interesting thing about this, everybody, is when you take a look at the offense, the Mets did do exactly that. That's the most impressive thing. And what have we been calling out forever? If the Mets do not score within a half inning to a full inning span of the last time that the opposing team scored, the Mets are likely not going to have a good ball game. But when they're right, and when the Mets know that they have as good of a shot as any, they retaliate, they respond a half inning to a full inning later. No little, no less, no more, just right in that area. And what did the Mets do here as we got on to the 4th inning, mind you? Well, they did exactly that, because after the Angels did nothing, as Kevin Herget came in and worked around a 1-out single for Renifo, we would see in the bottom of the 4th, Alonso strikes out swinging, but Jeff McNeil, more like Jeff McWalks, everybody. Jeff's on base for the 2nd time already in the first 4 innings, and then with 2 away, as Mark Vientos would pop out, who gets all that baseball that he rips to right? That gets Adam Driver, one of the more, I would say, popular actors today, especially. I like Adam Driver for a lot of things, but I feel like the things I like Adam Driver for more are far more known than, say, what you think of like Star Wars, for example, right? Because a lot of people think Kylo Ren right away. That's not what I think of when I think Adam Driver. I think of a lot of older films for him as he was really kind of starting out his career. But regardless, Adam was happy like every other Mets fan in attendance, because Brett Baty put the Mets right back in this ball game, and he did it against a lefty matchup against a little pump kick. Such a pain in the ass, Tyler Anderson. That little pump on the mound, thinking he's he's cute, he's not. What he's doing is throwing meatballs 89 down the dick, sink piece, a sayonara. It's out of here. Pull to the right side is Brett Baty. It is the hitman's, more like Brett Bonds Baty's 11th home run of the season. 404 feet, 106 off the bat. The Mets are down by 2, but they are right back in this ball game. Now, when Baty hit that bomb, I was juiced up mainly because I just love Baty's approach at the plate right now. He's not doing anything crazy, but he's just keeping himself level-headed. And honestly, when I look at what Baty's been able to do, he reminds me a lot more of a guy that's going to be around, a league average bat, but then be above league average defensively at the hot corner. That is more than fine when you bear in mind the context of what the Mets have not had stability-wise at the hot corner all season long. You need something there, and Baty is starting to provide that. That is not a bad thing. Billy Dottie with the $5 holla. Thank you, Billy. Billy says, given all things considered, this could be the most important win of the year if this turns into something. Wins like this can galvanize a team. I wholeheartedly agree, especially in the way that everything unraveled beautifully for the Mets there, leading to their big 7th inning. But the Mets would be down initially 2 runs here, as we would see right around the halfway mark of the ball game, everybody. And thank you guys kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way in, as we're breaking down the latest victory in Mets land, this time by a final score of 7-5 and a 1 game of a 3-game set against the Halos here at Citi Field. Afterwards, we see Alvarez get on with a walk. I love that for Alvy. But then Luis Angel Acuna, who, mind you, initially got the start today for the Mets at second base, he would fly out, and that does it for the inning. But again, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And Acuna's last at-bat would be far and away the most important for him. And the top of the 5th, it's another 1-2-3 for Kevin Herget. Because why? Kevin Herget, if I'm not mistaken, the New Jersey native who grew up a diehard fan of David Wright, was, funny enough, cut by the He gets picked up by the Atlanta Braves, and now 48 to 72 hours ago, the Mets pick him up again and add him to the bullpen. You know who the Mets also picked up for the bullpen today? Their legend, Enrico Garcia. Rico, who had himself 4.2 shutty for the Mets so far this season before becoming batting practice as the Yankees picked him up, and he was horrendous in 1 game for them against the Braves. That's all it took for the DFA. I called it a couple days ago on X. I'm saying David Stearns is frothing out the mouth to bring Rico Garcia back in this bullpen, and that has in fact happened now, everybody. So don't be surprised if you see Rico pitch as soon as mañana, if not there, the series finale this Wednesday. But as we get back in this one, bottom of the 5th, 1-2-3, Nims, Lindor, Soto, nothing. We're out of here. In the 6th inning, we see Logan O'Hoppe with a 1-out single. Then here comes Chris Davinsky, who's trying to shut things down, and thankfully he does, as he would strike out Lamont Wade Jr., but then O'Hoppe steals just his 2nd bag of the year, but it doesn't matter, as Renifo would ground out, and that does it there for the top of the 6th. And the bottom of the 6th, Alonso gets on with a leadoff walk, but that's all she wrote. 2 out of the next 3 batters would be out via strikeout, that being Jeff McNeil and Brett Baty. As we then get to the 7th inning, everybody, Zach Neto again leads things off this time with a single, but brilliantly, not was it just a solid throw by Alvarez, but an even better tag by Francisco Lindor. We saw Alvy kind of go a little wide right with a throw there, try to get the runner between 1st and 2nd, but it's Lindor's quick hands with the tag, slapping it right on the cheeks, and that does it there, everybody, to get the out. I know that sounds funny, but it's a fact. We just saw Lindor do this with Torrens no later than a day or so ago. The nice little, if you guys know this inside joke, it's brilliant if you understand this reference. If you guys know Key and Peele, the old skits that they used to do together before we saw Jordan Peele become what has been, in many ways, I think a fantastic, director, writer in the film industry. And we know Keegan-Michael Key has still been doing a lot of things on the side. But back when they were doing these skits, they have a specific baseball skit where the whole point is that Jordan Peele's character is that he just can't stop slapping ass. So every single time that a player does something well, he's so excited to smack their butt. Same way when they're in the locker room, it's the same thing. And they obviously make it out of pocket and a lot more uncomfortable than what I'm briefly describing to you right now. But the point I'm trying to make is that the same way that you're thinking slap ass, the same way I'm thinking that right away when Lindor gets that tag down, because that's exactly what he does. So Zach Neto would be called out on the stolen base attempt there. And then Nolan Shadywell gets on with a walk. Mike Trout with a hit by pitch because we can't get out of our own mess, mind you. And then we see Taylor Ward continue to torment the Mets again. Usually I love guys with the T Ward going, but not today. I do not love my own kind here, as Taylor makes it a 5-2 Angels lead, and then here comes Huasca Brosban to try to clean up the mess. Unfortunately, though, he allows then Joe Adell would reach on there that we would see on fielder's choice. And very frustrating that moment, too. So, all right, runners at 1st and 2nd, 2 out for Yo Moncada, but thankfully Moncada would strike out to end the inning. But the Mets Mets are now down by 3, everybody, and we still got a couple innings to play. So what would the Mets do a half inning after the fact that they would find themselves now down by 3 runs? Well, as I just told each and every one of you, the boys would retaliate in a big, big way. And what the Mets did in a big way, everybody, is they got Francisco Alvarez, El Troll, with a leadoff walk. You got Luis Angel Acuna with a first pitch single. Now, context of that Alvarez at bat is important. Alvy worked initially what was an 0-2 count and got himself all the way to a walk on 6 pitches against Tyler Anderson. Then it's the first pitch swinging single there for Luis Angel Acuna. You got runners at the corners, there's no outs, and here comes Reed Detmers from one southpaw to another. This time from one starter to one former starter turned reliever and Mr. Reed. And what happens? Reed Detmers is a schmuck, and he hits Brandon Nimmo. He loads the bases just like that, everybody. And after Brandon eats one, Francisco Lindor bolts down first base because he just puts the ball in play. Lindor's still laboring with the bat big time, and we know that this Mets team rides with Lindor, and without him, they've had very little success. At least it feels that way, because usually when the Mets win, Lindor has great numbers offensively, and when they lose, he has horrendous numbers. Today was one of those nights where Lindor didn't have any great numbers offensively, but it didn't matter because the Mets still came all the way back in the end. But it started here with Lindor's huge force out, which allowed the run to score from third. He's safe at first there, getting on, and you still have runners at the corners with less than 2 away. Lindor then, with the brilliant base running, and this is where Lindor deserves most credit, everybody, is his brilliant base running to steal second base. What have the Mets done so well, not only post All-Star break, but in the final week before the All-Star break? I noticed in numerous instances already where the Mets have had great heads-up base running, where they're stealing a bag and they're driving in that runner a second later. We have seen this happen already multiple times post All-Star break. I hope it continues, because this is the kind of situational base running all of us Mets fans want to see. After Lindor steals his 16th bag of the year, who drives in those runs, who ties the ball game with less than 2 outs, and who hits with runners in scoring position? Guys, I'm smiling cheek to cheek because, yes, Juan Soto finally did it. Finally, Juan Soto goes ahead and is impactful. And the most important thing, the most brilliant thing, is that if Lindor did not steal second base, that's an inning-ending double play right there, everybody. So the context of Lindor's base running is so important. It's so key when you look at him stealing that second base bag, Soto ripping one up to the center right field the way that he did. That would have been a double play ball every single day of the week, especially on Mondays here, the way that it would have been against Juan and against this Mets team. Not the case, though. Great base running by Soto. Great base running by Lindor. Even better situational hitting by Juan Soto. Juan's finally getting that average up to around the Mendoza line with runners in scoring position. Again, beggars can't be choosers. Soto's been electric. Outside of the runner in scoring position woes this year, no batter has really been as nearly as dominant as what Juan Soto has been, everybody. In case you guys are wondering just how amazing Juan Soto has been this season, let me enlighten you. Out of players since 1901 to have at least 20 home runs, 75 walks, and 10 stolen bags through 100 games with a single team, you have Babe Ruth in 1920, you have Jamie Foxx for the Red Sox in 1936, and you have Juan Soto for the Mets in 2025. That's it. That's the list. Shout out Greg Harvey, Between the Numbs on X. Great statistician. He's always on it with especially Juan Soto related stats like that. That's insane. So Juan's been doing everything on the individual basis. There's no denying that whatsoever. But now it's about what can Juan do when it comes to clutching up with guys in scoring position. And that, my friends, is what he was able to do today. You love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Juan Soto ties the ball game 5-5, folks. From there, the Mets don't do anything else in the inning. We then get to the 8th. And who comes in the 8th? Q Brooks Really, everybody. Your favorite southpaw at the young age of 37. Really comes in. He gets a fly on O'Hoppe. Then he gets a line out on Chris Taylor. He gives a 2-out single, third hit of the day for Luis Renifo, and then a fly out to Zach Neto. 2 outings, 2 scoreless outings, 1 hit allowed, and that's it for Brooks Raley over the past 24 hours. Welcome back, Brooks. Man, oh man, did I miss you. You guys know I miss Brooks Raley. I was beating the drum how much I miss Brooks Raley going back to May of last season. So happy to see Brooks back in this bullpen. I just need that man to stay healthy. As we get on to the bottom of the 8th inning, everybody, here's Brett Baty on a 1-out walk. Then Francisco Alvarez has himself a quality at bat, right? Alvy gets anchored down. Pitch number 2, 96 4-seam, and it's ripped. It's high. It's far. And it is off the wall. Chris Taylor can't read it, can't see it. Why? Because Putty should not be in the outfield. Angels are picking up again the sorry seconds from the Dodgers as if it's going to amount to anything other than a defensive blunder. That was certainly the case. Taylor can't handle it. He can't bobble it. Rounding out, again, that was certainly a situation where I would have liked Baty to score. Kind of pissed me off in the moment that Baty wasn't able to score there from first. I understood that, again, they were trying to figure out if it was going to be a bomb or not, but you got to be bolting if you're Brett there, in my opinion. And that was even a worse attempt there on Taylor to not make the catch. Mind you, that's 104 miles per hour off the bat, and that still has now runners in scoring position for the Mets. Alvy at second, just his fourth double of the season for number 4. Then at third base, you got the hitman and Brett Baty. You got runners at second and third, less than 2 out. What do you do, everybody? You bring in Ronnie and Mauricio. What do? They bring in Brock Burke for the matchup. And what works, everybody? Brock Burke and the Angels don't work. What works is Ronnie Mauricio and this Mets team. Ronnie goes ahead, Ronnie puts that ball in play, and Ronnie puts that ball in play for the Angels' lack of fundamental baseball to smack him silly across the face, up, down, and center the way that it did. Those schmucks tried to make a play. They couldn't stand a chance. They couldn't make a play at home. Bad error there by Logan O'Hoppe, who missed the play there. Not a good attempt there by Yoan Moncada either. Just a shit show all around. And right there, folks, that gave the Mets the 6-5 lead and ultimately the victory in this one. But it wouldn't just end there, as we would see Brandon Nimmo come to the plate and rip himself a sac fly. Shout out to Nimmo with another RBI. For those that don't know, Brandon has the same amount of RBIs as Lindor this season with 55 apiece. Baty has 33 RBIs. Soto now has 59. So in case you guys were wondering what the status was for the boys there. As we get to the top of the ninth, here comes Edwin Sugar Diaz. Cue the trumpets. And here we go. Nolan Shadywell, he strikes out swinging on the foul tip. Blake Trout, get your ass out of here, Mike. You can't handle the 99 heat. And then leave it to Taylor Ward. He strikes out silly, looking silly all day, everybody. What a big inning for Edwin Diaz. What a massive bounce back outing for Edwin Diaz. Because Edwin blew a save like it was yesterday, mind you. Now he steps up today, has one of his biggest saves of the year. He shuts down the door on everybody and your mother from the Angels there in the ninth inning. The Mets go on and not only strike out the side of the ninth, but they win this one by a final score of 7-5. And listen, we're going to take the small victories for what they were, because while the Mets definitely rallied back brilliantly today, they deserve a lot of kudos for this rally. This is the kind of thing that can really galvanize a team, as what our viewers in the chat earlier have stated. The Mets were runners, the scoring position still weren't sexy today. They were 1 for 6 and they left 7 on base. Have plenty more work to do there. We understand that. But regardless of even Lindor's error that he had earlier in this ball game, it really did not matter because his base running was proficient. I would have liked to see more quality at bats by Lindor, but that goes without saying. That man's been in a slump for the past month and a half now. That's why Lindor's been playing the worst baseball of his season by far to this point. But as we expand more on this, everybody, let's go ahead and let's grade the pitching and what we liked and maybe what we didn't like from this one, because Kodai Senga did not have it today. Love Kodai, but Kodai was far from in a groove in this one. And as we see with Senga, everybody, he went 3 innings of 4 earned run, 3 walk, 5 strikeout baseball. So I actually apologize. I think I may have said earlier that Senga, 5+ Ks in the Mets to win. Senga did hit the 5 Ks. So as long as it's 5 Ks or more, that play at -107 did in fact hit. I apologize. I genuinely thought for a second that Senga didn't get 5 Ks because he only won 3 innings, but he still managed to get his 5 strikeouts. So that's even better as long as the play was at least 5, but if it was 5+, meaning like it was only starting at 6, then that play wouldn't have hit. Either way, if you had 5 Ks, Senga prop and Mets to win, you're coming out looking out good tonight, right? Senga, I'm going to give a grade today. Really can't grade it well. Again, it's hard for me to go beyond a 3 out of 10 for Senga, so that's where we're going to go with. Again, not an ideal outing. Still has a sub-2 ERA, so I'm not complaining about that. But a lot more work to do for Senga, as we know he needs to bounce back from what was such an uncharacteristic outing for the veteran right-hander. But just to make sure to double check on Senga's arsenal, guys, as we look through Baseball Savant, a couple things were notable. That's the fact that his ghost fork was down over 2 miles per hour. The force seam and the cutter were down 1 mile per hour. That doesn't really concern me because velo can fluctuate by 1 mile per hour or so usually in outings. But when we get to 2-3 miles per hour, that's when you're like, okay, something's a little off here. He didn't feel right. The sinker, he was 2 miles per hour down. He was roughly 2 miles per hour down with the slider. He was over 2 miles per hour down with the sweeper. So just things to bear in mind with Senga and why he didn't have it today. It definitely went in hand with the velocity not being in his favor like it typically is, and probably just didn't have the comfortability he was otherwise looking for. Again, he topped out 95 on the fastball today, but he sat right around, 93.5 93.5, 94 area. Not far off from what he typically does, but you could see that the slight differences in the velo may have impacted his game greater than we initially realized. So saying I'm going with a 3 out of 10 for my grade personally. When we look at the bullpen was fantastic today. Have to give a lot of credit to this Mets bullpen. They only had 1 walk and 1 earned run and what was a total of 7 innings or 6 innings of work. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give the Mets a rock solid 7.5 out of 10 for the bullpen. I thought that they were very strong today. The way that Edwin Diaz shut down the door in the 9th inning there as brilliantly as he did, you got to be happy about that as well. So those are going to be my current grades, everybody. And thank you guys again for hitting that like and subscribe button. Alex, thank you for keeping them in check as well. If you guys could help us get to 200 plus likes by the end of the live show, to all of our live and recurring viewers, that I really appreciate it. To our replay viewers as well, help us get it north to 300. That would mean a lot too, as we're breaking down all of our key reactions and analysis from tonight's big 7-5 comeback victory against the Halos. Let me know more of your thoughts in the comments down below, and thank you guys for doing exactly that. Offensively, this is how the ball game ended for the Mets lineup-wise, everybody. And as you guys can see, Lindor, let's get to Lindor in a second. Nimmo back in leadoff against the lefty. Like that by Mendy, but unfortunately outside the sac fly, we couldn't get much more there from Nimmo. Nimmo 0 for 2 with an RBI, 260 average, 787 OPS. Lindor 0 for 5 with a run scored, 248 average, 751 OPS. Don't love that. Juan Soto 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, 256 average, 891 OPS. Nice. Pete Alonso 0 for 273 average, 884 OPS. Come on, Pete. Let's pick it up, baby. McNeil 1 for 3 with a run scored, 255 average, 814 OPS. More of that, Jeff. Not complaining there. Tyrone Taylor didn't get an at-bat, but he's batting 211 with a 573 OPS. At one point, do we say that Tyrone Taylor's DFA consideration worthy? I don't think we're there yet because the Mets don't have the depth, but especially they add something of significance, an upgrade, if you will, at center field there. By the deadline, you have to wonder just how much of a leash is someone like Tyrone going to get, because he's fallen off a cliff big time with the bat, unfortunately. Vientos 1 for 4, 222 average, 626 OPS. He had another game where Mark gets on base at least one time. Baty 1 for 3 with the ding-dong, the 2 runs scored, the 2 RBIs, 237 average, 726 OPS. Francisco Alvarez with the double, the 2 runs scored, and the hit 1 for 2, 240 average, 675 OPS. Luis Angel Acuna with the first pitch hit and led to a run scored, 242 average, 581 OPS, and Ronnie Mauricio 0 for 1 with a 216 average and a sub 700 OPS, 659 to be exact. So that, folks, is what you got for the Mets on the offensive end. And on the pitching end, they did exactly what they need to do in this one. So as we hop back here for a second, before we get on to kind of talking more about David Stearns' comments, because we're going to talk about pretty much all of them today in our live show, as well as we're going to expand on them tomorrow with a special guest. Like I mentioned, it's going to be more so on not just what Stearns said, but what's been widely reported and where that reporting is coming from. And we're going to talk to one of those amazing reporters. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that is my little sneak peek of what you guys can expect tomorrow, if you guys haven't kind of put the pieces together to figure out what tomorrow's segment is going to be dropping earlier in the day. Let's see here, guys. I have a real feeling that we get Bader back. No, Andres, funny enough, Bader definitely is a possibility for this team. But as David Stearns said, the Mets are going to add someone in center. They kind of want the bar to be fairly raised greater than what it currently is. And that's going to be the case. Does Mullins fit in that category? Does Robert fit in that category, even with the way he's been swinging the bat much better as of late? Not exactly sure. Bader, the Mets have plenty of familiarity with, but are they really going to go ahead and have Bader be like their center field solution? There's pros and cons to all this for sure. And Michael, no, it's not your F-neck Mark, because I do stuff with Mark like it's nothing every single week for fun. Like Mark and I are like this. Me, Mark, and James, we're all very close friends between myself, WardyNYM, and the Mets Step Boys. We have been pretty much since day one. So when it comes to Mark, that's kind of more, those things kind of happen on the fly. Like if we do a playback stream together, kind of gets formatted a little bit more last minute, because we know we both work for playback, so we can do those segments together. And actually, funny enough, Mark and I have a very exciting announcement that we have to share together soon. I can't share it yet, but we will likely be sharing it within the coming days for you guys to check out. Very, very exciting for Mets fans that have interest, so definitely be on the lookout for that one. Let's see here. They need a center fielder with some power. I agree, Steve, and that's why there are a couple guys out there that check off those boxes. There just really isn't anyone out there that's really going to move the needle crazy, at least on paper. LGM with the $5 holla. Thank you, my friend. He says, concerned about Stearns making a big move for the deadline and getting a difference maker, would hate a Paul Black Blackburn type trade. Will he extend his comfort level? You'd have to think he's going to extend his comfort level because there's more pressure for him to do so this year than last year. You have lofty expectations this year. You're trying to win now with your core group with Juan Soto in his first year here, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, who still is in the final year of his contract. Again, let's not forget that, everybody. All those factors, that context is important. And I think it's very important that the Mets go out and obviously, while not trying to give up the entire farm for everybody, they should be far more willing to trade away assets than they otherwise were in previous years. And everything is pointing towards the Mets being willing to do that. Exactly that. And now Truman says David Big Move Stearns. One can only hope that that comes to fruition, right? We know that Stearns has done very good moves in the offseason to a degree, obviously, even though that he himself wasn't, the main factor as Steve Cohen's dollars were the main factor beyond Juan Soto coming here. He certainly didn't hurt the negotiation. And you definitely have to wonder, when looking at what Stearns can do to kind of right the ship of what he did wrong entering the season, how much can he really rewrite things? That's what I'm curious about. Carson Bench is a lot of fun, but I don't expect the Mets to rush up Bench right now. They're going to probably let Bench continue this year in the minor leagues, but Bench next season, I think, has a lot of potential. Carson Bench is arguably my favorite prospect right now. 2024 first round pick out of OSU. Buddy's batting 340 with 1,000 OPS in AA right now. And mind you, he started the year, moved up from Cyclones. He started with the Brooklyn, then he moved up. So he's been awesome. Really, really excited to see more Carson Bench. But that's enough of the prospect talk for now, everybody. I really want to get into Mr. David Stearns' remarks that he shared with the media over the past day and see what you amazing Mets fans have to say about that. Again, folks, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way in and let us know all your key reactions and thoughts to the latest in Mets land as the Mets take game one in a huge rally fashion, thereby a final score of 7-5. I do just want to double check as well to make sure that I don't miss on any key notes I want to share with you guys. I can't get over how good Kevin Herget was today. Like, Kevin Herget was a dog, like an actual dog. And the fact that the Mets were able to bail out Kodai Senga, really, really do appreciate that. Like, really appreciate that. Especially because Senga's usually the guy that's trying to bail out the Mets and the lack of offense 9 times out of 10. Things are not the same here, and I really, really appreciate that. So let's go ahead here, everybody, and give me 1 second because I want to go ahead and pull up what S&Y had to share from the David Stearns segments earlier today, because they had a lot of clips to share. And I'm going to share just some key ones I want to get into. Not every single remark, but just, a handful of them that I think are important. The key takeaways, if you will, from David speaking to the media for his usual availability today. He does that pretty much every week, which I love. Anytime the Mets have a homestand, you're going to get a David Stearns presser, which is really refreshing. Because while we did get pressers from Epler, it didn't feel like it was as frequent. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way, right, guys? But let's go ahead and let's see what David Stearns had to say when speaking to the media. There's a couple of things I definitely want to get into. Let's see. Thomas, thank you so much for the $5 holla, Thomas. I appreciate that. What's the chance the Mets get Skeens? Who would that trade include? Keep it up, Wardy. The chances of the Mets getting Skeens, Thomas, if I'm being completely frank, is 0.01%. I'm not going to go completely 0% because anything can happen in baseball, but I will go the lengths to say that I will change the channel to Wardy Pittsburgh for an entire week, if not longer, if the Mets trade for Paul Skeens by this year's trade deadline. Because there just is not a chance in hell it's going to happen. As stupid as Nutting is, the owner of the Pirates, and trust me, guy's an idiot. He has an acorn for a brain. That's why if you flick his head, you hear echoes galore. Regardless of that, and regardless of the fact that he's a schmuck that doesn't spend for his own team and his fan base, they're not going to get rid of Skeens yet, because Skeens brings in a lot of immediate revenue. A lot of immediate revenue, just based on jersey sales alone and everything else. So that is why they're not going to be cutting ties with Mr. Skeens just yet. They will maximize Skeens' trade potential down the road. It will not happen this early. I promise you that. Truman says, so you're saying there's a chance. I love that. Cue Dumb and Dumber. If you know, you know. Sports Down with the 10. Hollis says, will you accept this trade? Mets get Stephen Kwan and Cade Smith from the Guardians for Jesus Baez, Jonathan Santucci, and Trey Snyder. This is interesting, Sports Town. This is a spicy one, Sports Town. So, Cade Smith and Stephen Kwan for Jesus Baez, who I like a lot. Jesus Baez is one of the hardest hitters in the Mets minor leagues outside of Ryan Clifford. A lot of potential there. Jonathan Santucci, a lot of potential on the offensive pitching end. Trey Snyder is kind of like a Swiss Army knife. Very exciting young prospect too, but not as heralded as others. Would I do that trade if I was the Mets right now for Steven Kwan and Cade Smith? Yes. I wouldn't even hesitate. As much as I like Santucci, the Mets have an abundance of pitching that they can trade away. Cade Smith is under team control until 2030. And just without going on a complete tangent in regards to Cade Smith, everybody, I just want to remind you, because we broke him down in my video that dropped earlier today on the Jeff Pastor reporting. But as you guys see, Cade Smith's a dog. He's under team control still for another half decade. He has a 3.2 ERA this season, 2.5 expected ERA, just around 2 FIP, 2.5 SI ERA, roughly 14 strikeouts per 9 to a 3.4 walks per 9, a 10 K to walk ratio, as dominant as any. Yeah, Smith is nasty. I would gladly take not only what we got there, Mr. Cade Smith, but what that would pair along with, that being and Steven Kwan. Let me pull up the Kwan stats. I know I got hit the Kwan. Oh, if you know, you know. That's an oldie. That's a goodie right there is what that is. But Steven Kwan, again, more of your contact hitter for sure. I expanded on him in great depth and great length in our video that dropped earlier today, so I'm not going to go anything crazy here. But Kwan would fit the immediate need for the Mets, needing an outfielder. Kwan's played mainly left field this year, but he would be able to handle center fine. He can definitely be a solid defender for you. Lots of speed. He has 11 stolen bags already so far this year, but he's usually a solid base runner, high contact hitter, goes gap to gap well, isn't going to hit for power too much, but you know, if he's around a 400 slug, you're going to take that from Steven Kwan. That's pretty much what you're going to get in someone like him. So usually around a 750 to 800 or so OPS guy, but brings stability, brings speed, brings youth, and brings multiple years of control in his contract, knowing that he's not a free agent until the 2028 offseason. So Kwan and Cade Smith, would I personally do that trade to give up Jesus Baez, Jonathan Santucci, and Trey Snyder? I would be inclined, because I think Cade Smith is a fantastic pickup if you make that happen, and Kwan's team control as well justifies it. You know, the Mets, in my opinion, would still be missing. I would like them to add one more piece of significance for the pen, but I think that they put themselves in a much better position to win now if they made a move like that versus if they made no moves at all. Baez is the one I would have more of a problem to personally trade than Santucci. I know that might seem crazy. I know a lot of Mets fans love Jonathan Santucci. I have no ill will against the guy at all, but Jesus Baez is a guy that I personally have had more personal attachment to. The guy rakes, and he has a lot of defensive upside too. People think that Jesus Baez can't be a defender. Well, my man Ernest Dove, one of the best prospect gurus in the land covering the Mets, will tell you that Jesus Baez is as good as any defensively. So a lot to like there, certainly, everybody. But now let's get on to Mr. David Stearns' comments shared with the media today. I think you guys are going to appreciate what David had to say and what we're going to expand on. But to all of our replay viewers, everybody, if you guys do not care for this portion, this is where things will either be cut off or I will have a timestamp to tell you that we're talking solely David Stearns' remarks now with the media. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe on your way out on all your key takeaways and thoughts from tonight's amazing comeback 7-5 victory here against the Halos and what you have to say about that. Thank you guys so much. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.